I just want to say a great big welcome to you all. My name is Jane Ring. I'm Parent Support Officer at Look. I am a parent of a visually impaired child who's also profoundly deaf. It's Deaf Blind Awareness Week, so definitely celebrating her, but she's 14 now, so she's definitely teenage and not little. I do miss the little days sometimes. And I am co-hosting this event with my lovely friend and fellow parent and colleague, Charlotte Meller. So Charlotte, you can say hello.
Hello, I'm Charlotte. I'm from VICTA. Just want to echo what James says. There's a big welcome to you all. It's quite nice actually, because when we look through the Excel spreadsheets of all the sign-ups, there was quite a lot of new names. You tend to get a lot of people who have been involved with the charities for a long time come to these events, so it's really nice to see some new faces or some new names on a black screen, not necessarily the faces. Like Jane says, I'm a parent as well. My daughter is 12 now. She has no useful vision and a condition called optic nerve hypoplasia. I've worked within parent services for a decade now, since Scarlett was 3. I love my job. I love helping parents. I know this time might be difficult for you all, so we're hoping that some of what we talk about today is going to kind of help you, especially in this 0 to 4 age group that we're targeting tonight.
Charlotte, do you want to say anything else about VICTA? Because I'm so aware, as people are new, that they might not know what else you offer.
Right, okay, so VICTA are primarily an event organisation. So we do, we support people up to the age of 29 and their families. So we, like I said, we have events, and then we have a grant scheme for equipment that helps towards education. And then we kind of have the parent services that I do, and then the student portal, which is aimed at our young people. Yeah, we do lots. It's quite hard to put it into like a short synopsis.
There will be some information in the follow-up resources as well, so you can find out more about VICTA. And I just briefly let you know about Look. So Look is a charity that supports visually impaired children and young people to thrive. We have one of our major things we do is mentoring. So when your children are older, they'll hopefully be able to find a mentor. My daughter Chloe has got a mentor, Andrea, who's also deafblind. She's on the call. She works for Look as well. But that has been incredibly helpful in terms of young people having someone they can talk to and share kind of challenges and things. So we have our mentor scheme. We offer counselling for visually impaired people who are 18 and older, but also parent carers. And there's lots of events as well. So we are opening up a little bit more, and hopefully next year we'll have a Look Fest, which is a little festival for families and visually impaired people with our mentors. So yeah, that will be something for next year. So we will run the session today. We are recording it, so just so you know, if you've just come in, so it will go on our website at a later date. We mute yourselves if possible but there will be a chance to speak, and Andrea is monitoring the chat, so if you feel shy and you don't feel able to show yourself on camera, we do encourage you to, but that's fine. You can ask a question in chat and we'll make sure it gets answered for you. So we have till 9:30 because there's a lot of chat. If we need that much time, we'll take it. We have some amazing panel members, and what we'll do is I'll introduce them, and the first two provide fantastic support. They'll both speak, and then there'll be a chance for you to ask some questions. Then we have Melanie and Sid, who will talk about their lived experience. Sid is a 30-year-old blind adult, and her and her mum Mel have been in and out of hospital through this time, so they all share very recent experiences as well, I'm sure. And then we've got Eunice and George, who come to our parent support group, and their daughter is 2, so they can talk to you about their kind of what they found helpful in the last few years. So just really warm welcome, and we'll begin. So I hope you don't mind. This is Paula and all the panel members. I'm going to spotlight you so that everybody can see you in glorious Technicolor. Paula is the first person to speak, and are you happy to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah,
do you want to do it now?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Here you go. I have spotlighted you. You did not know that because you are visually impaired.
Yeah, well, that's probably the first thing to say. So good evening, everyone. I'm Paula, and I'm the Eye Clinic Liaison Officer at Great Ormond Street. For those of you who have met me, you will know, but for those that aren't, I'm registered blind. I have no sight in my right eye and a very little in my left. So I work at Great Ormond Street, and I've been there 11 years. That's one job of many. How I ended up doing it, I think, was it all happened by accident, but I'm very pleased that it did. And I took the job on really because I really knew that my parents didn't have the support back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, before internet and even sort of being handed a leaflet. I mean, these things just didn't happen. So it was really to ensure that, you know, you had I'm basically a glorified signpost, but for those that you come to Gosh, hopefully I've met you, and if I haven't, I will beat up our consultants. And so I will talk more about my role. I'm assuming we're doing instructions and then we'll come back. Yes.
Well, actually, I was going to let you do your bit, but
okay. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what's the role of an ECLO? So Eye Clinic Liaison Officer. It will mean different things in different hospitals. And I started the ECLO journey actually working with adults in Sussex, and it was very new. So I think there was probably about 8 or 9 of us across the whole of the UK. There's quite a few more now. And it really depends on the setup of the hospital. So I've worked in a couple, and I know lots of other ECLOs. How I work at Gosh is what I can speak about, and I think I'm very lucky because firstly I'm employed by the hospital rather than an organisation, so I'm free to offer advice from all sectors and not be sort of inhibited by that. It also means my relationship with the consultants is very good. We've moved into a new building, so as much as I haven't been there in the capacity, you know, because of COVID, and I'm still waiting on equipment and all of those sorts of things, but I now have a lovely office and an interview room, so a very quiet space, which we're trying to make as non-clinical as possible, which is difficult to do. But it means I'm on site, I'm in clinic. And for anyone that came to our old building, it had its advantages because it was one long corridor with all of us on it. So I would meet everybody, and it was very easy to bump into everybody all in this one long corridor. Anyone that's come to our new building, we're now over 3 floors and very spread out. So we're trying to kind of make it as seamless as possible. But I can end up being sort of in my office and forgetting to go out and find you all. The reason for doing what I do, as I said, is to ensure that as parents, you have choices, you have support, you know what's out there, you know where to start looking for things. It's putting you on the right path from the very beginning. So for anyone that I talk to, it's not that your child won't be able to do something, it might be that they need to do it in a different way. So even, you know, driving, we haven't quite got round that, but any patients of Mr. Henderson would have heard him say, nobody's going to be driving, we're all going to be in self-drive cars. But until that happens, you know, it's finding, you know, making sure that your children have got DLA, that they have a taxi account, you know, that if they're all very young, that's not the case at the moment, but giving them the skills, giving them the mobility to go out and be independent. And if I can start parents thinking in the right way that takes them through, then that's my job sort of in part done. You never need an appointment with me. I will speak to parents at any time by email or phone or in person if we're in clinic. As you all know, questions sort of fly out the window. You get into that consulting room and go, oh, there's loads of things I want to ask, and either don't feel able or you forget. So that's why I'm there. You ring me up or you email me at midnight. I don't answer them at midnight. I wait till the next working day, but I will then pick those questions up and either answer them or speak to the consultant. And it's not just it's the emotional support, and yes, it's independent living skills and mobility, but it's about socializing, it's about hobbies, it's about careers, it's everything sort of beyond. And I will have these conversations with parents that ask, even with a babe in arms, because actually, if that's what's worrying you at that moment in time, let's talk about it. But as parents, we all know what you think your children are going to do and become is very, very often very far from actually what they go and do. But I will have those conversations with you. And, you know, hopefully all ECLOs operate in that way. But as I said, I can only speak of how I work. Do you want me to say more about me?
Yeah, go on. It'd be really good to hear about the other things you get up to as well.
So my poor parents, and I'm really sorry to all parents of visually impaired children, because you have this kind of idea, and my mum hates me saying this, but my sister's sighted, and I think she always thought, you know, Paula will be marry somebody who's going to look after her and treat her like a princess, and I blinking wish, and that would be her life, and my sister would have the career and travel. And in actual fact, it's a complete switch. So my sister very much is looked after and has 4 holidays a year and beautiful house and la 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 la. And I work my socks off, and as does my husband. And we have a daughter who's 13. And I just enjoyed making my parents go grey overnight, I think. So everything, you know, if you tell me I can't do something, I'll do it. Which has included skydiving, racing cars for my 40th birthday. I love my husband. So the first car I ever drove was an Aston Martin at 100 miles an hour, which is quite I quite enjoy being able to say that, and a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. I ride horses, and I used to ride race horses. And I now have to I used to cross country as well, so over quite big fences in open countryside. And I got old, and I'm now quite sedate and ladylike and do dressage, which is boring, but I love it really. What else have I done? I've swum out with dolphins, go on holidays, you know, anything that's looks difficult, I will find a way of doing, and actually, in fact, that probably pushes me to go and do it even more. And before I worked at Gosh, I did a lot of work for the RNIB, but I also worked for Harrods, and I worked in a racing yard, and a recording studio, which was fabulous. So yeah, I don't think I've done what my parents thought I was going to do. And I know I didn't do what my parents thought I was going to do. And yeah, love my job, wouldn't change it.
Thank you, Paula. That's so interesting. We will hear from Barbara at the moment, in a minute, who is also offers support. But I also wanted to say to people, this is kind of can be geared for younger years, but do you know, any time we know that visual impairment can happen at lots of different stages in a child's life, so feel free to stay and listen, and hopefully you'll get inspired by whatever people are saying tonight. Barbara, I'm going to see if I can actually spotlight you properly. Please tell us about yourself.
Hello, I'm Barbara. I work for Vision Norfolk, so I live in Norfolk. I have a vision impaired son who is now 14. He lost his sight through leukemia when he was 7. He went blind overnight. We were in Great Ormond Street, which is how I met Paula, who 3 weeks after Marcus's diagnosis rang me up on the ward and said, "Do you like dogs?" So I said, yeah. Can I come and see you? Yeah. And I was just thinking, oh no, somebody else. So Paula comes up with her guide dog, and really, I think she's changed my life, because she was just an inspiration to me and my son, because he'd lost his sight. I didn't know any blind children at the time. And I just thought, well, this is it. This is the end of life as we know it. And I saw Paula, I met Paula, we became good friends. And she's independent. All her buttons were done up properly. Her outfit all matched, and she was just leading a really happy professional life. And from then on, I thought, right, we've got to get on with this. And I now work for Vision Norfolk. I'm the Family, Children and Young People's Coordinator. And I'm also a qualified ECLO, like Paula. I'm office based, so the ECLOs in the Norwich office refer children to me and their families. I arrange events and activities. I run parent support groups. I don't know, what else do I do? Lots of things. Signpost to other organisations. I'm heavily involved in education for the children. I work very closely with our local authority. We have a good relationship with our local authority in Norfolk. Just as far as I'm concerned, peer support for the children is so important. As it is for the parents. I run a preschool group which meets weekly on a Wednesday, and the parents have said to me that they just come to the group for themselves more than anything else, just to meet other parents, so they can talk about what works for them, what doesn't work for them. They can ask me advice on claiming benefits, just everything like that. It's so important for the children. Marcus once said to me that although he likes his sighted friends at school, his blind friends just get him, and they understand. And which is why when I was offered the job at Vision Norfolk, I thought, yes, I'm going to take this. This is just the best thing I can do. It's the best thing for him. I want to make sure that there's a service for him as he grows older, and for his friends as well. It's also important. And we have a really good service in Norfolk. There's lots of activities and events running for the children, and there's lots of support in school as well. And there's a good habilitation service. So I think we're really lucky where we are. And I have, about me, I've got 2 other boys. Marcus is my youngest. And I live in a town just outside Norwich. And that's me, really.
Thank you very much. Now you've heard from 2 people. Everyone, I'll remove your spotlight. Please feel free to ask questions of Paula and Barbara, because they both have a wealth of knowledge, and I've got some things that people sent in advance, but if you feel brave enough, ask in chat if you can.
What I'd like to ask both ladies, if that's okay, is I always ask this question of parents that I support when the children are later on in life, but what is the best possible piece of advice that you would offer to a parent of a newly diagnosed visually impaired child? And that's both to Barbara and Paula, if that's okay.
Firstly, it's okay to be cross at the world, and it's okay to be emotional, and it's okay to jump up and down and fall to pieces, because actually that is part of the journey. You know, it's your child, and I think it's one of the hardest things to understand. And I see lots of parents where visual impairment is part of a bigger diagnosis. And it's the one thing that parents find the hardest to get their head around. So it could be lots of other things going on, but so it's okay to feel like that. The other bit would be speak to other parents. I mean, peer support. So for children to meet with other children, and there's some wonderful stories. You know, 2 boys with albinism had never met another child. So one child was with us, happened to go over to Moorfields and met another little boy the same age, and they stood in front of each other like they were a mirror image, and sort of just put their hands out towards each other. And it's such a powerful image, and I get choked up just thinking about it, but that's how important it is. It's really important, and for other parents to speak to other parents, and no limits either. You know, I said in my earlier talk, you know, it's about what you can do, not what you can't do. So that was 3 bits of information. Sorry.
Barbara's not going to have anything left.
Sorry.
I'll just say, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my turn. I would say, like Paula, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be sad. I know when my son was diagnosed, I was just a lost soul, and no one knew what to do with me, really. It's okay to be like that. And exactly like Paula said, I struggled more with the sight loss than I did with the leukemia, which is just ridiculous. But I thought the leukemia will kill him or he will get over it. He has now got sight loss for the rest of his life. That's changed his life. And that's how I felt at the time. And I was angry and, just like I said, just lost. But I would just say, take your time, deal with the emotions and just let them come. Look, if you can speak to someone, counsellor. We had counselling. I had lots of counselling at the hospital. My sons had counselling. I know that Look do the mentoring. Go for it. Go for any help that you think that you need, but don't feel that you have to either. If you don't want to talk about it, then don't talk about it. Just do what you feel is best for you. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Do it at your own pace. Don't feel railroaded into anything. And again, like Paula said, meeting other parents, meeting Paula, for me, was a huge thing, knowing someone who was vision impaired themselves, and just meeting with all these children out there in Norfolk that were also vision impaired. I had no idea. And that's just been a massive help, meeting the parents. Yeah, just peer support is just huge. Yeah, that's all I can really say. That was 2 things.
Thank you. Victor does a really good early years meetup, don't you, Charlotte?
Well, we're trying to. Quite difficult because we're a national charity and the young people are dotted all over the country. So I do one in Manchester at the minute, and I do that in conjunction with Henshaw's. So that's twice a month on a Thursday. And we also do have a big early years day in August. I'll send the details after this, and that's actually being held at St. Vincent's Specialist School in Liverpool. So it's a good opportunity for parents of younger children to come and visit a specialist provision, because during that time, the children are actually attending, the older children who attend the school are going to be attending a summer camp, like unaided, without mum and dad. So it's a great opportunity to see them enjoying their activities and the type of things that they get up to in school, but then also get some information and chat to some other early years parents. So, but I'll send the details about that with the resource information that myself and Jane follow up with.
And guide dogs have an early years, following diagnosis, or they used to, didn't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So there are, even if it's not locally, I mean, when Chloe was younger, we didn't actually have a specific session for visually impaired children, but there was a play session for children with additional needs, and it was so much easier to go to because the people there were just working with all the things your child could do. And even though every disability was different, it was still a group of parents who kind of were at the kind of same stage, and we could chat and we could watch our children have fun, and that was really brilliant. I think there is a question, isn't there, Andrea?
There is. With early years groups, would you go through your ECLO or your local authority? I think that was the question.
Either. I mean, I certainly would be ensuring that parents had their local supports information. So be that the QTVI, so the qualified teacher for visually impaired. So either through that or Portage or local, so in Norfolk, the Norfolk Vision, but wherever that may be. That's where I'd be making sure that they, you know, that's where you need to sort of go to find out what's local.
Also, if you search local offer and put the name of your authority, it's not always VI specific groups, but it's a bit like what Jane said, just like additional needs groups. So if you, any local authority that you live in, they have like it's called the local offer. So if you type that into your Google, you should get some more information about bespoke groups. We don't always get QTVI straight from the off, do we, Jane? Some children it takes a while to get assigned a person. So yeah, asking your ECLO or finding what the local offer is, or if you've got access to a social worker, depending on if that's the route that you've gone down, they can normally point you in the right direction. Or if you use the online support groups, there tend to be a lot of advertisements about the peer face-to-face groups as well. So yeah, lots of different avenues there for you to find something.
I would say also check out your voluntary sector if you've got a sight loss charity locally, because I work, as you know, I work for a sight loss charity and we run a preschool group every week. A lot of the charities do have a children's department, children and families department. I know Cambridge do as well, and I think More Vision in Devon as well do. So always check that out as well. I try and advertise in the hospital as well. Our leaflets and booklets are in our local hospital, and I always ask for the weekly, I always ask for the QTVIs to send out our details whenever they go and visit children.
Yeah.
And they're always more than welcome to come. If the family is nervous about coming to a group, I'm quite happy for the QTVI to come with them and introduce them.
Yeah, I think yeah, we're lucky in Devon because we have More Vision, which is particularly for children, young people and their families with a vision loss. But we also have Devon Insight, which is the sight loss kind of sector. So have a search. They don't always have them, like you said, Barbara, but it is worth finding out. And that they're suitable for all ages. I find that when Chloe was younger, it was great to go along because I would see the older children mess around, and actually they become peer support for each other. So the older children would take people under their wing, and yeah, it's really good. And there are different opportunities over kind of summer holidays. New College, Worcester have family fun days, and they're really worth going to because you get a day of fun as well. So there are lots of opportunities, but when we have a child with sight loss, we know it's a rare instance disability, so we just have to do lots of research ourselves. Anyway, thank you both very much. We're now going to talk to Melanie and or Mel and Sid. Sid is Mel's daughter, and they're going to talk about their journey. Sid lost her sight at 9 months old. She doesn't obviously remember that, but Mel does. So Mel is going to talk first. Would you like me to spotlight you, or would you like me to leave you unspotlighted?
No, I'm fine, unspotlighted.
You're fine,
unspotlighted. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to just jump in. There's just been one last question that sneaked in about the last section.
Brilliant.
When a child is diagnosed with VI, is there a pathway that is followed to ensure appropriate services and health professionals are involved at the right stages? When my eldest was diagnosed, it felt that I had to fight for everything and chase everything. My youngest has a VI also, and things have been slightly better. What is best practice?
It's always difficult because I think we've got quite a good reputation at Gosh that if registration is applicable, we would much rather, so this would be the pathway from a registration point of view, it would be, if it's applicable, we would register very early. If there was any kind of doubts, then we might hold back until we got electrodiagnostic tests. And if vision improves, then we would deregister. Now, what you find in a lot of hospitals is that they're very reluctant to go through the registration process with a child. Now, registration should not act as a passport into getting services. However, as much as nobody will admit it, shush, sorry, dog having a go. As much as nobody will admit it, they are so understaffed in being able to provide resources that what they will do is use local services will use registrations as an indicator on where somebody may be on a waiting list. Now, that shouldn't happen. Now, what I do at GOSH is if a child is not eligible for registration, or we haven't got enough evidence to register, but it's very evident that the family needs support, is I will do a letter of referral in its place, along with written consent, signed consent from a parent, and a medical letter explaining what the difficulties are. And I always say to a parent, if you don't hear within 6 weeks, I mean, this again has changed with COVID and things are sort of changed a bit, but if you don't hear anything within 6 weeks, then let me know and I will chase it, which I do. Luckily, most things that there is contact made. So that's our pathway. It's not to say that happens in every situation, and it's also not as always cut and dry as that. So I have lots of parents who say, my child has never been registered, they've got sight loss in one eye and not the other, as an example. So it's not been explained why that hasn't happened. Now, it's not to say that child shouldn't be getting some form of support, and the school needs to be aware, or whomever needs to be aware, but it's that registration isn't the way forward, and perhaps it's a different route. But unless you're told this as a parent and this is explained why it has or hasn't been done, you are none the wiser. Also, you're not told as a parent that you can actually self-refer to services. So, you can go onto your local council's website and you can self-refer. But again, it's such a pickle because you just don't know where to start. Speak to your ECLO, if you have one.
In Norfolk, it's pretty much the same. The consultant would write to the local authority and suggest that the child needs support, letter with their diagnosis. The local authority, being virtual school sensory support, then contacts that parent. They ring them up initially, and they ask, whilst they're speaking to the parent, they would ask if they would also like to be referred on to Vision Norfolk, i.e. me, and I would then also contact the family at that point. The QTVI would then go in and talk to the family. So it's pretty joined up again where we are. And just because the child hasn't got a certificate of vision impairment doesn't mean that they're not entitled to support in school. And virtual school sensory support would still get involved if it's thought appropriate that they need extra help. But I know that there is, because I've been involved with it through Guide Dogs has Jane, trying to ensure that vision impaired children across the country all get the same service. So I know it's a bit of a postcode lottery, and where I am, it works very well, but that isn't necessarily the case everywhere. But I know that there is a lot of lobbying going on to try and get things changed. And
we have to hope that, and I do believe it, that the sight loss charities, the local authorities want to join things up better. So yeah, we'll carry on pushing that forward as well. Thank you for your questions. There will be some more time at the end if you think of some. So now we're going to go on, and Mel is going to talk about kind of finding out about Sid's diagnosis, and then Sid's going to talk about her life following it. I was trying to encourage mother-daughter banter, but I think they've decided one after the other is better.
Well, I can be here.
You can chip in if you need to.
I'll weigh in if I feel the need.
Okay, so where do you want me to start? Right back at the beginning?
Yes, so welcome, Mel. Where do you live?
So I live in Hawkhurst. Sid now lives down in Hove. A good hour and a quarter's drive. Thanks for that, Sid. Really useful when I needed to pop down and see you.
You're welcome.
But I had a little boy of 2 called George, Sid's older brother. Then had Sid, everything was good, or at least I thought everything was good and wonderful. She had a bit of a squint, which I'd mentioned several times. 7-month checkup, doctor said, no, lots of kids have squints, don't worry about it. And then at 9 months, my health visitor came to do the hearing check, and I mentioned the squint. And she said to me, you said it once too often, I'll get you an appointment. And at that point, taken over to Sevenoaks Hospital, where the woman said, well, your daughter's blind, but I'm not good enough to tell you why. You know, bit devastating, to say the least. A complete shock. I had no idea, because at that point she had peripheral vision. So she was reacting pretty much like any 9-month-old would. Went from there, obviously, straight up to Moorfields, got referred to John Hungerford. At which point, obviously, the very worst news that she had cancer in both eyes. So it sort of got progressively worse, really, from she's blind to we don't know what it is. It could be this, it could be that, to, well, she's got cancer, at which point she could die. So, you know, a more devastating diagnosis for somebody who has in front of them what appears to be a completely healthy, happy, bonny baby. You know, to say it was a shock was the very least. But once you get, I wouldn't say you get over the shock, I'm not sure you ever get over the shock, but you then come to terms with all the different processes, and the machine takes over. And it is a very good machine. We were then, you know, immediately you're referred to the next specialist, and advise them what treatment's going to be necessary. The treatment, obviously, for Sid was chemotherapy. By this time, she's still only 9-10 months old. Chemotherapy, then radiotherapy, and a little bit of surgery thrown in here and there. My best advice, as far as when you have a very tiny child, they have no idea what's going on. They have no anticipation. They have no fear. So as far as it goes, I always used to look at Sid and think, all the time she's okay, I'm okay. Clearly that's not entirely true all the time. A lot of the time I was in bits, but that is what you have to tell yourself, because they don't know what's coming. With chemotherapy, Sid would sit and play with the drip. She would try and eat the drip, which was not a good plan, because the chemicals they were putting into her could kill her if she actually drank them, despite the fact they were pumping them into her body. So, but, you know, there was no anticipation. She didn't know she was going to be sick. She was sick afterwards, but then she'd forget she'd been sick because she's a tiny, tiny baby. And she would sit there smiling and quite happy playing with this drip, with me thinking, oh my God, she's going to pull it out. So I think don't imagine they are thinking what you're thinking. They're really not. They're very easily distracted. I'm not saying it's fun for them. It certainly isn't. She was very sick. If you look at the photograph of her, you can see quite how horrendous she looked at one point, and she was massively thin. We then moved on to radiotherapy when we had to drive to London, 1.5 hour drive every day for her to be knocked out because she was too small to have radiotherapy to rely on her keeping still. So it was 1.5 hours there, excuse me, knock her out, radiotherapy, 1.5 hours home. But fantastic people, and we got through it. We had volunteer drivers taking us up there every day, had the most fantastic older couple who would pick me up from home, drive us up there, wait, and drive us back. So all of the treatment, whilst it is in a way horrendous, they are all there to help you. They're all exceptionally kind, and they are all brilliant at what they do. She had a fantastic surgeon, a fantastic doctor doing the chemotherapy, and an equally good one doing the radiotherapy. So she came through all of that, and by, I suppose, 2-ish, she was through the worst of the treatment. And then it comes, as you say to her, I've got this baby. I had never even met a blind person before, let alone had any clue as to how to bring up a blind child. And back in the day, there wasn't really the help and advice that I think there is now. But again, my best advice is don't presume there's anything they can't do. Treat them as normally, treat them like any other child, and then find out what it is they need. We were talking about adaptations at home. I don't believe I had a solitary adaptation at home that I wouldn't have had for any toddler. You know, you have a stair gate in the same way. You have a playpen that you can put them in and keep them safe while you're doing the hoovering. Things that I would have had for my son. I don't believe in that regard there's much that you need at home that's particularly specialised, particularly when they're very tiny. But I think let them try everything. I didn't really sort of presume she couldn't do stuff. I'd work on the basis of this is what, if you like, a normal child would do. So let's see what she can do. I took her to a specialised playgroup for blind children. This was a long time ago. I hasten to add, this wouldn't apply now, but I hated it because all the kiddies were sitting on their own, playing with an individual toy, and I cried all the way home. I then drove up that same day to collect my son from nursery school, and all the children flooded out to meet Sid and played with her and talked to her, and that made my decision that she would go to a normal school. Come hell or high water, that this was the world and this is what she was going to do, and she would have to cope with the world as it is, so she better start now. So we put her into a fantastic primary school. I have to say I spoke to the headmaster first, and he was amazing and basically just said, what do I need to do? And that is unusual. You have to have a school that is on your side. But both for the nursery school, primary school, she went in with everybody else. I think they had to amend the pegs. I think the pegs were eye level for her, and they changed the pegs. But there was a worry. There was a very steep bank outside the school, and everyone was talking about whether or not it had a fence around it. And I turned away for a second, turned back to find 3 children, one either side of Sid, one at the bottom of the bank clapping, and 2 of them walking either side, showing her how to go up and down the bank. At which point, forget the fence. So that's really my sort of thought on it, is let them be, let them try absolutely everything. She tried, we went to gym club. I spoke to the gym club teacher and said, can I bring her? And they said, yes. Had her jumping off things, building trust, I think is critical. Jumping off and down things, telling her when to bend her knees, starting off holding her hands and then eventually letting go, so that she knew that whatever I told her, it was safe. If I told her she could jump, she could jump. Very early on, teaching left, right, back, front, up and down, so that when she drops something and she doesn't know where it is, you can guide her just by voice. It's to the right of you, to the left of you, above your head, whatever. So those things. And later on with a plate, teaching the clock, so that, you know, your P's are at 2 o'clock, for example, when they're a bit older. So I'm jumping around in ages here a lot, but just as things ping into my head. Again, she went to a normal, for want of a better word, senior school.
Mainstream, the word you're looking for.
Mainstream, sorry, yes, okay, mainstream. Thank you, Sid.
We don't use the word normal.
Sorry, we do, I do. I'm very impolitically correct, I should say. She did have a bullying incident there, and which was awful, and I created absolute merry hell over. And this was the year prior to GCSEs, and they said, oh, you can't possibly move her. And I said, watch me. And we insisted she was moved to a different school, which was fabulous. So you do have to stick up for your child as well. But that was a one-off. The rest of her life, touch wood, has been pretty good. We've had some lovely experiences throughout her life. I started off deciding not to be musical in any way myself. When she was 4, I thought perhaps she could learn the violin, because that's a nice, easy instrument to learn. Not difficult at all, I thought. I thought it's portable, makes a fantastic sound all by itself. It'll be great. And I found somebody who would teach her. And I rang up a chap who made violins, because I needed this ridiculously small violin. And when I said, he said, well, that is the smallest violin we make. And I said, yes, I know, she's 4. And he said, that's awfully young. And I said, well, she's totally blind. And bless him, he was absolutely horrified and said, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, no, she's absolutely fine, but she's blind. And anyway, he made the violin. His wife delivered it, covered in bubble wrap and a big pink bow as a gift. He would not let us pay for it. So throughout her life, we have had all sorts of touches of kindness. And I always feel when I get, as sometimes I still do, a little bit cross about why my beautiful baby, why my child, why did this have to happen to her of all people in the world? You look at what it does to other people and the kindness that we have experienced. She has brought out the best in so many people that if there's any justification for a child going through chemotherapy, and as I say, I find it hard, I think that's it, that it brings out the best in other people. But I don't really know if I've said anything relevant to what people actually need to know. What would help anybody? Any questions?
Well, shall we find out from Sid, and then they can both ask you questions. Sid, have you got anything to add? What would you like to say about your experiences? You've been to hospital quite a lot over your life.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, our experiences of the traumas are obviously very different. As Mum said, I don't remember any of the stuff that happened. I was too young to understand chemotherapy and all of that stuff, which I count myself lucky, really. I feel for is it Barbara's son who went through it at 7? I'm sure he remembers a lot more of that. But I do remember all the checkups, and for me, the most traumatic part of it has been in the last year when I've lost both of my eyes, which has been a delayed kind of, they were deteriorating in health because of the radiotherapy. Unfortunately, the radiotherapy did its job, killed the cancer, but also kind of destroyed the health of the eyes, and they've been deteriorating. And so they haven't worked since then, but the health of them, they've been kind of shrinking and getting painful. So last September, the right one came out, and 2.5 weeks ago, the left one came out, which is why, if you can see me, I look a bit drunk with a half-closed left eye. It's still recovering. It hasn't quite recovered and reopened yet. So yeah, for me, the biggest trauma hospital-wise has been the last year. It's not been fun. The post-op has been painful, but very short-lived in terms of the pain. I'm pretty much out of the pain now. And the operation was 3 weeks ago on Thursday. So yeah, I'm grateful for how the body is amazing and how quickly it recovers. Given that the day after the operation, I can barely move my head without pain. It's a very quick recovery. So yeah, I know it's a really traumatic thing for parents if you talk about eye removal, and that's one thing I would say to parents if they have to go through the same sort of thing, is actually the trauma and the initial physical pain of it is very quick. It's very short-lived. And actually, for me, the way I have viewed losing my eyes is I've viewed it as losing a problem, because they've never worked, and they didn't look great either. And they will look better once I've got 2 matching ones. And for me, it's almost been a relief to kind of lose something that's done nothing but caused me problems over my life. And I think it's fair to say for both of my parents, that's been harder to see it that way.
Very true.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And I get why it's harder, but for me, it kind of signifies the end of the hospitals, the end of the cancer checkups. The bit that had the cancer is now gone, and that for me feels quite good. So yeah, there's been a lot of that, and I really hope I'm kind of closing a chapter on that now. By the end of this year, I'll have the prosthetics sorted, and after that, the only thing I'll have to do is get them polished, which is, after everything else, that's pretty nice. And yeah, but I think kind of thinking about sorry, the advice to parents would just be, I'm immensely grateful to my parents for having let me try things, and for the attitude of, let's try something and see if I can do it, rather than assume I can't do it. we've always joked that if I'd been a generation earlier, I'd still be in my grandmother's house, and I'd never been allowed to do anything. And I have a lot in common. I don't know Paula, but I've just discovered how much I have in common with her. I'd love to do racing cars. That's one thing I haven't done. But I've done a lot of things that people would probably not assume that I could. I've climbed, I've abseiled. Earlier this year, I went to Costa Rica and zip-lined across the forest and did a free fall swing, which was horrific. But I'm glad I did. You
drove on your 17th birthday?
I did drive. I had an off-road driving lesson on my 17th birthday because, yeah, why not? It wasn't a racing car, though. I'd like to do a racing car.
It was a Range Rover off-road. What do you want?
It was. But the fastest I did was 30 miles an hour. I'd like the 100-mile-an-hour experience. Paula, please tell me where you did that.
I will do.
I definitely have a love for the speed, the adrenaline. I have a friend who takes me out on his motorbike sometimes, which I really love. So yeah, I am so grateful that my parents did things like that and allowed me to cycle. I was very lucky. I grew up in a quiet village in Kent where the biggest hazard was parked cars rather than moving cars, and I did hit a few. But just the kind of the attitude of let's try something and see if I can't do it, or see if there needs to be a different way to do it. And yeah, I'm so grateful that my parents brought me up in that way. And I do want to agree with what Mum said at the end there about how, yes, I had the occasional bad experience in school, and sometimes kids don't know what to do with another kid who's different from them and who can't see. But as a general rule, and particularly with adults, I find that I think any kind of disability brings out the best in somebody else, because they automatically want to help you. And they want it generally 99% of the time brings out kindness rather than anything malicious. And I find this still happens in my life. And I always have this argument with people who are really unwilling to use a cane and to let people know that they can't see. And I try and explain to them how much difference it makes in a good way, and how it's not necessarily a bad thing for people to know that they can't see. I went out to a gig the other day with my friend who's 7 months pregnant, and between us, people were falling over backwards to try and help us. I think they were looking at us and not quite knowing how we were both out alone together safely. And it just, kind of literally stopping traffic and people falling over themselves trying to let us through the queue first. And you get such positive responses as a rule. I'm not saying it's all positive, and I think school is the trickiest time. And as Mum said, you may have to fight a few battles, whether it's to get the support. I think I was very lucky with the support I had, but I know it's a lot harder now than when I was at school. Because of funding, it's all got a lot tighter and a lot harder. And you will have to fight a few battles, and my mother can be terrifying when she wants to be. And I don't think you can deny that.
I'm not sure. I think you take after me is all I will say on that.
Well, that's true. I think we can both be terrifying, but sometimes you have to be, and I think sometimes you have to be willing to fight a battle. They're probably, well, I don't want to be negative and say there probably will be, but you're likely to come across some kind of difficulty in your life and in your child's life, and that's just a fact of life, and you have to be a bit prepared for that battle. And that doesn't mean it's the end of their life. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean everything from now on is going to go wrong. It might just mean there'll be a few hurdles, and as Paula can clearly demonstrate, you can jump over hurdles even when you can't see them. Yeah, I don't know.
It can be quite a fun challenge as well, to challenge yourself to work out, how am I going to teach my little girl to do this? How can I do this? What's going to be the easiest way to demonstrate? And I was lucky because she's very tiny, and always was, so I could pick her up and manhandle her. And sometimes it was necessary, teaching her to swim. It's easier if I could actually get hold of her arms and do the breaststroke with her arms. And then we'd be swimming down the pool with me in front, shouting at her, left a bit, right a bit, causing absolute chaos.
Oh yeah, and the left and right, I agree, the left and right is so important. So for goodness sake, teach everybody left and right. I joke with people now because so many of my friends, so many people I come across don't know their left and right. And I'll joke with people if somebody's guiding me and they'll say, right, we're going to go to the right, and then I feel their body go to the left. And I just say to them, I'm going to follow your body, not your words, because you're not... it's a really core skill. I don't know why everybody isn't taught this. And the thing about trust as well, that's so important. I had to trust that if somebody tells me something, like particularly if you're jumping off things or a distance, step over a puddle, it's not that big. If it is that big, trust it's vital.
And I think the food thing as well with the trust is, if you're trying to get your child to eat vegetables and they're not keen, don't say this is a piece of chocolate when it's a carrot.
No, that will not,
because they'll never open their mouth for you again.
Again,
it's total honesty and trust, and then you can get them to do lots of things.
Thank you both. That's just brilliant insight. And determination, I'd say, as a parent of a deafblind child, she has taught me more determination than I thought I would ever have. So
and you've gone through some school battles as well, I know. So you know what we're talking about with wanting a different school and going through all of that. And they don't make it easy for you. The authorities don't make it easy for you.
No, but that's why these kind of groups and the parent support and the kind of learning is really helpful. Thank you both for coming. I think it'd be important to hear from Eunice and George. They have got their camera off. Eunice, are you putting Ella to bed? Have I left it too late? There you are.
Hey. Sorry, no. Ella is here.
Hello, Ella. So we'll hear from Eunice and then I'll get everyone to ask you all questions, if that's okay. So Eunice, tell us about your darling girl and your kind of your 2 years with Ella.
Yeah, so Ella was born at 27 weeks. She developed retinopathy of prematurity, which developed to stage 5. She had surgery at Great Ormond, and as a result has light perception in one eye. So after the surgery, I think reading other people's experiences, I thought it would be better for her to be registered. So Paula helped with the registration. And I think the council then gave a disability card. So, I mean, disabled parking pass, which really helps because most places, by the time we get there, the car park is full, but there'll be 2 spaces left for the disabled, which is a great convenience. I think so far, biggest challenge was trying to find a nursery for her. So I think in all, we spoke to 18 nurseries and only 2 of them were happy to take her on. Most said they don't think they can meet her needs, but I understand up to the age of 4, by law, it's not education and therefore they can refuse. But the nursery she is at now, they are really helpful. They have a SEN code, so they have other, they've not had experience with a blind child before, but they are willing to learn. And Ella has got a QTVI assigned to her as well, who goes to nursery twice a month to assist. Sorry, she keeps moving my iPad around. So for me, what has helped me is the fact that there are so many blind role models. And I was reading this article where it said that podcasts came about. I mean, the whole concept of podcast is credited to the blind. So there are so many things that sighted people enjoy now because of the creativity and the initiative of blind, of people who don't have any sight. So for me, I think what everybody has said about the fact that you shouldn't limit them. I mean, you shouldn't limit the kids in any way. That's one. And blindness is just one aspect of their life. And it doesn't have to be, sorry, George just took Ella upstairs and she's screaming. She wants to come to me. Yes, sorry. So what I was saying was that there are so many blind role models that for me, I don't have any. When Ella was diagnosed as being blind, I think I spent about, 2 hours being emotional. But after that and doing a lot of research, I realized actually there's nothing to be scared of. And there's a lot of resources available. If I have any question, there's always somebody I can ask. What helped me, the RNIB website provided a lot of information. The Look Parent Support Group, I think Linda, I think you're on the call now. Your advice with regards to the EHCP really helped, because when I spoke to the SEND IAS team in Milton Keynes, they said she wouldn't need an EHCP because they can make reasonable adjustments. But Linda advised that actually she needs one like yesterday. And from what I've seen so far, that was the best advice I'd had. The other professionals also provided a lot of advice. The physiotherapist, for example, she pointed us in the right direction on so many occasions on things we could access and what sort of toys in her experience other kids have found useful. Ella is not really one who likes toys. She doesn't really like toys. She prefers to go to the kitchen and remove things from cupboards and play with the onions. And so I guess sometimes advice doesn't really work with your child. Is what the child likes is really what keeps them happy. And she also likes music. She would call for music if there's no music playing in the background. Her brothers have a piano, so she's always on it banging away. I find that if she's crying and I turn on music right now, she'll stop crying. So for me, music has also been quite helpful. I introduced her to a cane. Immediately she started walking, and she walks with a cane. There are so many comments when we go out that she's so good with it, because she's quite small, using her cane when we go out. So introducing them to the cane really early helps, so that they don't reject it as they are older. Because I've read quite a lot about teenagers who don't want to use their cane because they don't want to be different from their colleagues. But if they are introduced really early on and it becomes part and parcel of them, I also realized that she also learns a lot. When I go shopping and I take her along, I let her feel the products on the shelves, tell them what they are, and it's really helped her vocabulary. Last week, the nurse was saying that her vocabulary is better than some of the kids in the class. So she listens really well and she retains a lot. And then I think maybe I'll just end by saying that blindness is not a deficit and doesn't need to be fixed. And that a child is only as disabled as you bring them up to be. So yeah, I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. And George was around, which I thought was brilliant, because he's been alongside, but now he has to look after Ella. So yeah, because it's quite good to have some dads' points of view as well. But we have a few dads that come to the parent support group. Are there questions for, so there's Mel and Sid and Eunice that just spoke. And just any of us, we're here to kind of support, give some advice.
Actually, could I say one more thing?
Yes, you may.
It was only that the other thing that I think is so important, which I didn't get right, is you have to remember as a woman that your husband is also in it with you, and he might react in a very, very different way to you as mine did. And it pulled us apart, which I find very sad looking back. We're both very happy now, so it's all good. But I think the difficulty is you can get so bound up in how you feel that you can't expect that everyone will feel and deal with it the same way as you. So I would say to anybody who's married and gets a diagnosis like this, to seek some form of counselling as far as understanding your partner, and also not neglecting your other child. Sid's brother George has been the very best thing in her life, sorry. He was absolutely amazing from when she was born through till now. And without him, life would be very different. But the poor little devil, when she was having chemotherapy, he had to go off to nannies or go off to a friend's because she didn't have any immunity. So he was moved from pillar to post, and he was absolutely amazing throughout. So we have a very close relationship, and that's all fabulous. But just remember that other people don't always react exactly as you would expect. It doesn't mean they're not hurting too. That was it.
Thank you.
We have a question in the chat box. It's quite a long one. It says, I have a non-verbal, hearing and visually impaired autistic. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what ARFID stands for, Linda. The abbreviation ARFID. Anyone knows? Oh, I will go back over it. So I have a non-verbal, hearing impaired, visually impaired, autistic, ARFID, double E incontinent, sleep apnea, developmentally delayed, sensory processing disorder, hypervigilant 8-year-old son with no expressive communication and receptive language of around 15 months old, who has the physical needs of an athlete. He's a twin, and his twin also has special educational needs. I've had to fight for every diagnosis over the past 5 years. Refused everything from portage to a field of visual assessment. He currently has no access to any professionals because the local authority block everything. I'm giving up because I'm extremely overwhelmed, buried in bureaucracy and red tape. I'm begging for help, yet nothing is available. I'm crushed by the ignorance of the local authority. Even the CCG nursing manager said, I don't know what MSI, multisensory impaired, is. I asked the EHCP tribunal judge to recommend social care assessments for my son and us as parent carers because we need enabling help. 7 months on of social care assessments, which should have taken 40 days, our social worker has left her post because my family are too overwhelming for her, and the parent is not too sure where to turn now. This is quite a big...
Yeah, it's a really big question to ask, and I just think it's really tough, isn't it? I don't know if Barbara or Paula have got any thoughts about field of vision. Kind of, I know that ahead of time, I think Linda did ask, how do I get my child's field of vision examined professionally? So, yeah.
By the sounds of things, doing a field of vision test may not be the easiest thing to do. So, and I don't know, I might be missing, I'm wondering if I'm missing, not why that would be useful, but how that would change. It sounds like there's an awful lot of going on, and that's fact, and I'm gobsmacked really that there's been a withdrawal of support. So in order to do a field of vision test, we can do it on quite young children, but they have to be kind of willing to sit and do it. And actually, every time they do it, the results will change, even if vision hasn't changed, because they get better at doing the test. But what it relies on is being able to pick out a marker and identify it, and they're done sort of randomly, and you have to sit very still and stare in order to do it. I mean, actually, what might be more useful, again, depending what you're trying to prove and for what reason, God, this is such a difficult one, is that an electrodiagnostic test would give you a better, or a visual evoked potential test would give you a better idea of what is going on. But it just sounds like somebody needs to scoop them up and support them. I mean, I'm where do they live? Just, you know, it's
I know they live in Devon.
Right.
And I try and support Linda. Linda, you go, you say.
Can I just jump in? Because obviously, I'm a parent that fights, and I fought hard for everything. But Reddington, my son, is just too complex now. And everybody's just given up and walked away. And the reason why I keep banging on about a field of vision assessment is because I've got, because he has so many accidents at school, and he broke his nose, and that will affect him now, and does affect him, and he's in pain. But I'm fighting the hospital to operate, but they ethically cannot do it because so he's walking around with a broken nose. He's got a hole in his nose. He's got a constant infection there. He's open to, he's got cellulitis now because of it. And they won't touch him because they've said when he's 16 and his face has stopped growing here, then we can reset everything in place, because it's not a normal break. It's not up here, it's down here. So he's lost the tip of his nose, and it's floating around so much so it keeps poking out of his nostril. That's just ENT. He's also got, you know, he's got sleep apnea because of the mucus that's built up around this hole, because his body's trying to fix this hole that is there. It's causing so much mucus that he's got severe sleep apnea. He's had so much, I'm not sleeping because I sleep with him, because he, you know, I've never left him since he was born. It's overwhelming for me. Like, I've tried to type out, like, in a nutshell, what's going on. Everything that I try and do, and I'll come back to the accidents at school. So he's had accidents at school. I've got a physio now telling me, oh, he needs a bigger bike. He needs a bigger bike. And I'm like, well, have you actually looked at the critical fall height of that bike? Because he was on a scooter and smashed his face in, lost 4 teeth and broke his nose, which isn't healing. So I'm having to fight the professionals who are insisting that, look, to get his proprioceptive and his vestibular need, he needs a bike, he needs a bigger bike. And I'm saying, keep him on the small bike, keep him on the small bike, because I don't think his lower field of vision is very good. He can't tell the difference between, until he feels it, between grass, paving, gravel, whatever. I've had the school build, I've got him in the right school, I've got him in a deaf academy, who also diversified into multi-sensory impairment. So, you know, I've had a massive stroke of luck there, and that's just, you know, a mile up the road. So that's been brilliant. But it took me 2 years to fight to get him in there. I'm fighting everybody, and people are leaving the Southwest, and because they are just so overwhelmed and so stressed, that they're leaving post left, right and centre. So I'm trying to give my children the best chance that they can get, and I'm refused because he's just too complex.
I don't know if we can answer it all now, but is there any way that Great Ormond Street can help? I don't know, kind of a more of a national
What you need is somebody to look at your child as a whole person. And this is what we, and I'm not saying we're brilliant at it or the best, and we're probably quite good at it, but we still don't do it how I would like it as a parent. But it's getting everybody to look, so having all of his care under one roof, and having meetings that all of those consultants are in. Now, something that is really powerful and might be an easier thing to achieve is that, what's your son called?
Reddington, Red for short.
Red. Okay. If there's something visually that red, will react to, be it, I don't know, what sits or a balloon or lights or whatever it might be, is to very crudely sit behind him with whatever that item is that that you're going to get visual reaction from. As you can do this, is actually video it to prove your point. So rather than trying to force your way in medically, because actually getting him to do the tests that I think proved that he's got a lower field deficit, I don't think you're actually going to get him to sit and do. It involves sitting with your face, either room, which is the old version, or into a machine. You're chilling on a rest, and it's, I've had to do hundreds of them over the years, and I find it difficult. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, they're not easy. But if you know that he's visually going to react, so sit behind him and bring your arms out to the side and bring them in. And you do them in all fields. So you bring it in from the top coming down, you bring it in from the side coming in, and equally up from the bottom. Now, I've got a retina condition, and I think I was working age. I remember speaking to a colleague, and she said, if I put this pen on the desk and you're looking at me, can you see it? And I went, no. And can you see, if you're stood up, can you see your feet? And I went, don't be so ridiculous. I didn't know people could see below a certain level, but doing a simple test like that, filming it, using that with your physios, it's a very good way of kind of saying, look, I know I'm, you all think I'm a mother that just is like about everything. I'm not. This is what I'm saying, and this is proving it. And then get them to think about it. It's probably a lot more powerful.
I've got so many videos of my son, because you preach into the choir, Paula. Absolutely. You'd think, wouldn't you, that professionals would look at those videos? They don't. They won't. They refuse to, because it isn't written in the EHCP through another professional's report. And until I get a professional report, nobody believes me. I've had to diagnose my son through massive amounts of research. I've diagnosed him with everything, and then basically just got the professional to do the technical bit, so that I can then fight in a tribunal to get it into an EHCP, so that I can get him to the right school. Everything is a fight. The local authority don't even speak to me anymore. They just completely refuse. I think Jane, and her experience, she was definitely the poster child for Chloe was the poster child for how the system works brilliantly, and then it's almost as if overnight it all disappeared. It was almost like, look, we've got Jane and Chloe, it all works, and then absolutely no services were ever there. And Jane's seeing sort of that now, being reflected back at her now, when it's just all gone. But I've never had that. My child's only 8. I've been fighting for so many years, and this physio thing, that's just a tiny little thing. I can't get anything. I can't get it. I'm going slowly crazy because I'm so sleep deprived. I just can't even believe what's happened.
I think this is I'm more than happy to speak to you from
be helpful
work, because I think there's a few, I'm not saying I can fix everything, but I think this is such a big issue. I think trying to unpick it here isn't probably for you either, but hopefully for you being able to know that, get my details off of Jane. I'm more than happy, and I'm more than happy to give you a call, and if there is anything that can be done, so get in touch and I'll send you the insight questionnaire and I'll process it for you, and I'm more than happy to do that and see if that gives us any more ideas. Okay.
Thank you so much, Paula. That is fantastic.
Just like to, sorry, do you just mind if you just add, so Linda, I'm just looking through your list, and apart from the food one, thank you to Barbara who told me what that abbreviation meant. My daughter's 12, but she's, apart from the incontinent thing that we didn't solve until she was about 8, actually, she and the hearing impairment, she's very similar in terms of the development and the physical needs of an athlete. Her language is pretty much similar to what you've got. It's not sleep apnea, but she had sleep issues. for a very, very, very long time. And I think that the sleep deprivation that you're probably experiencing at the minute is just making everything a million times worse. Now, we did over the last couple of years manage to secure some social care support for her, and it wasn't, but we did get the local authority to approve funding for a short break stay 1 night a week. And we also get some PA hours as well to help with stuff. So, you know, you're going to chat with Paula off camera, but in terms of the sensory processing stuff, and I think the sleep and the trying to get some more social care support for your son, I'd be happy to talk through what I went through with my daughter to get everything in place. So now we've got a plan that works, and now she sleeps, albeit with melatonin support, but there is also quite a strict sleep plan around it. You know, I'm sure I'll be able to chat through a few of the things that we managed to get in place for that has helped. But I know what you mean. When they're this complex, it gets quite difficult. And Scarlett was very lucky that she's placed in a complex needs school, a very expensive but a very good complex needs school in Manchester. And that changed our lives because everything is in-house now. So the OT support with the sensory specialist, with the VI teacher who works with the development worker, who works with the rebound worker. So everyone works together, and we don't have to sit on waiting lists. And you know, when we ask for EHCP, you know, changes, that it all goes through really quickly and smoothly. So I know you said earlier that you're quite happy with the school that you've got in, but it doesn't seem like they're doing enough to support the EHCP changes. So I'm not quite sure where the fallout through that is coming. So I know we've got two, VICTA individually have got two EHCP roadshows that are run by like a legal specialist who works in the EHCP area, which might be quite useful for you to attend, because I'm not an EHCP specialist. I wouldn't even know where to start with that, but very happy to chat to you offline about everything that we've gone through with Scarlett and these additional complex needs, and making things a little bit, it becomes like the visual impairment is like the least of your worries sometimes, doesn't it? I find that the communication thing is the thing that I struggle with the most. But even that is coming on leaps and bounds now that she's sleeping, and then the social care plan's on, and we're all sleeping. So you've just got a lot going on, and you sound very sleep deprived, and it's awful. It's awful. That's like my traumatic trigger, talking about sleep deprivation. I just go back to all those nights of not being able to sleep. So I'm rambling on now. I feel really bad for you, but happy to.
I really appreciate it. I really do, because I mean, he's been on melatonin. Well, both twins were on melatonin. They've been on that for 5 years now. Basically the paediatrician threw the rule book away on that, because she said somebody's got to sleep somewhere. So we do, and it's on rota. So it only works for about 2 hours, and we have split dosages for each twin through the night. And they both have massive anxiety and separation anxiety. So I can't get. I couldn't possibly put them into a respite overnight anywhere else. And that's unfortunate, because the local authority have sort of said, well, we can do that for you. And it's like, that's the one thing I can't do. I want respite during the day, you know, during 6 weeks holidays, during the weekend. But and they've just been so tight on it, because of, you know, he's BSL, so he's learning BSL now, as we all are. And so that's his only slight line of communication. He's got a very mushed up parietal lobe damage, so his receptive language isn't anywhere near where it should be. As you can expect, a 9 month to a 15 month old child is, you know, that's about his level. So it's all really restricted, and I'm very aware I'm taking up everybody's time. I've just got an extremely complex kid. I can't get any help. I've been through everything. I've been through you know, cerebral and everywhere. So and I'm just hitting brick walls, and it's the brick wall that I'm coming up against constantly, because he's too complex.
But hopefully got a little bit of light tonight. Paula and Charlotte will offer you some help. And also I want to say to all parents here, my daughter is totally amazing, but as Barbara has said, as Mel has said, parents need support through this journey. It's a shock. It's not, you know, it can be scary, but also brilliant. And just look after yourselves as well, because I think that is key. We will have to find kind of suits of armor for our journeys, but also our children teach us so much, and you're not alone. You know, our parent support group has an online session once a month, and we also run these theme sessions, so there might be other things you want to come along to. Charlotte offers loads of support online through events, so there are things you can go along to, and you're not on your own. I think the worst is when you feel isolated, and I think Linda needs a lot of support and a great big hug. I wish I could take some of your bricks down for you, Linda. But I also wanted to check that there wasn't any other questions from people. There was something about educational healthcare plans.
Yes.
Do we think as panelists that children need an educational healthcare plan kind of through education?
Can I just add something about sleep?
Yes.
Because sleep is something I struggled with for years and years and years and years. I'm 30 now, and I still struggle with it sometimes. And I tried melatonin. It's fantastic if melatonin works. Because it's very common. I don't know if it's been explained to everybody. If you've got a child particularly that doesn't have light perception, it's very common to have a messed up circadian rhythm because you don't have that light and dark trigger. And that's the problem I've always had, is my brain will go 2 PM, you're sleepy now. And it's 10 o'clock at night and you're wide awake. And like I say, this still happens. Melatonin is the common solution, and it's great if it works. It didn't work for me, unfortunately. It can have a side effect of depression, and unfortunately it depressed me, and it vaguely helped me sleep, but I was waking up in the morning not feeling like I wanted to be awake. And I'm now on amitriptyline, which they won't give to a very young child, but I'm extremely grateful for the doctor who said, well, let's try this. I was pretty much at the end of my tether, barely sort of really struggling to function, to get up for work. And amitriptyline has been the only thing that's helped me consistently. I've taken it for a long time. I tried to come off it beginning of this year and did about 3 months of back to my usual lying awake until 4 AM, and I've gone back on it. And it is good stuff. So probably a little bit later than the early years, but it's been my savior, amitriptyline. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody who doesn't get on with melatonin as I didn't.
Thank you, Sid. So educational healthcare plans, I would say you could, there's meant to be a grading in terms of responses that local authority give, but in loads of cases, getting an educational healthcare plan is the way you get the support that your child needs. What would you say, Barbara?
In theory, my answer would be no, you don't need one if your local authority can provide the support, which if they had the financial backup, they could do. However, there are lots of high need children, and our sensory support department can't be with every child every single minute of the day. And my son doesn't necessarily need a huge amount of support in class. He needs a lot of support moving safely around the school. So a trip or a fall could be a catastrophe for him, and he could lose his remaining vision. So, and virtual school sensory support are not here to do that. But his EHCP has put in place a team of 5 teaching assistants who are all BTEC trained to be with him. So I think, yes, my answer would be yes, but in theory, if there is enough support elsewhere, you shouldn't need to have an EHCP. It does provide the school with extra funding, supposedly, so they can train up extra teaching assistants, and they can provide specialist equipment where necessary. So like Marcus, my son, has been ordered he's doing computer science and or computing, and he's also doing tech. So they've ordered him a bigger screen because they had the funding for it, which they wouldn't have had if he hadn't got an EHCP in place.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And if you don't know where to begin, guide dogs have got a really, really good education team. And over the years, they just offer support. They're qualified teachers of visually impaired. They'll talk you through how things go. We can put this information in, but I'm also aware that I don't want to overwhelm people. So, but yes, it is very, very helpful.
There's another question, Jane.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for coping with other people's reactions to hearing your child is VI? The pity and the implications of your child being less than is hard to hear, and we don't want our son to pick up on it. So
I've actually written a blog a long time ago, and it's entitled "I'll Tell You Where I Think You Can Stick Your Pity," and I think it's a particularly bad day with everyone saying, "Oh, that's a shame. I've got a very pretty daughter," and that's a unanimous, unanimous. That's not just me being proud mum, and everyone used to say, "Oh, that's such a shame. She's so pretty as well," and that used to drive me up the wall. It's like, oh, so would it have not been as pitiful if she wasn't a very good-looking child and she was blind? So yeah, I don't get upset with people anymore about it because I don't think they're trying to be hurtful. I think they're just a little bit ignorant, really. And I do correct people sometimes when I think the wording or the way that they put something across is quite offensive. A really good example is when people say, "What's wrong with her?" And I say, "No, there isn't anything wrong with her." When I do that kind of correcting, I think people realise then. Yeah, and it's hard. My daughter understand what other people are saying and speaking about, so that when people do pass those comments, she's still in a happy little learning disability bubble where she doesn't really take that in. But yeah, I will include the link to the article about where I tell people to stick their pity. But yeah, just let it wash over you. Just let it wash over you, and you'll be fine. And correct people if it's appropriate to correct people, because sometimes people just don't realise, and they're not trying to be hurtful.
Can I add something to this?
Yeah.
Really nice to see Charlotte, the other Charlotte Woods, by the way, from Sussex. I just wanted to add, and my mum's literally just reminded me of this by taking the mick out of me via WhatsApp, is because you said specifically about not letting everybody's pity affect your child. And I think something I forgot to say earlier is laughter and humour. And do you know what? Do take the mick out of your child for doing stupid things, for being blind. Encourage them to laugh when they do something stupid or something silly, knock something over, walk into a door. Being able to laugh at it, being able to laugh at themselves as the child with the disability is really important, and teaching them that, okay, that person might pity you, but they don't understand, and to not let it affect your child. I think the humour side, teaching them to be able to laugh at their own disability is so important. I feel like there's so many times that if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and so the laughter is so important. You know, my mum would tell me to watch where I'm going all the time. Always. And you get dirty looks from people in the street, wouldn't you? But
I did once. When she was very small, I said, "Watch where you're going," because she was just scuffing her feet, and she knew exactly what I meant. She picked her feet up, but the mother in front of me nearly sort of killed me with a look. If I may, I would just say, people, if you see somebody, I had so much of this when Sid was little. I had this tiny little baby who couldn't see anything, and I had so many pitying looks. I don't find that in any way offensive. It is very sad when you see any child with any disability, you can't help but think, oh, bless it. They're not saying it in any way to be offensive. They're not trying to hurt you. Quite the opposite. They're looking and trying to give you a bit of solidarity and saying, bless you. You know, that's not great for you. So it is very difficult. Sometimes people can be very patronizing. We get a lot of the lift's over there. She's blind, her legs work. But, you know, the answer is never, her legs work. I might laugh about it and say, no, it's all right, she can see, you know, she can't see, but her legs are all right. But again, make light of it, because 99.9% of them aren't meaning to be offensive. So don't choose to be offended by it, choose to take it as it's meant. Is a nice, I'm sorry, your child is blind. I don't think that's an unnatural reaction.
And I think, actually, if I may say, because I know Charlotte through Bletchington, I know your son is like me and blind because of tumours. And when people do pity me, when people say, I'm so sorry, I just say, well, could have been worse. Cancer could have been a lot worse. As Mum said at the beginning, I could have died. And I always say I'm happy to be alive and to have what I have, and I don't focus on what I don't have. And I think that's an important thing as well.
Can I also just add, it's teaching your child to be, I agree with everything you've just said as well, Sydney, but it's teaching your child to be positive. And again, it's going back to what that you can do rather than you can't. And sometimes, you know, it is really difficult, especially as a parent. There is a really good link that I use to Healthy Books. So it's healthybooks.org, which do a whole range of books on lots of different topics. I mean, massive amount of topics, but each topic is then split into age appropriate levels. So The Mole Sunrise would be quite a younger book, but they go right through into teens. But again, it's positivity, where visual impairment is seen, you know, where it can be empowering rather than not. So, you know, it's really funny. So I got voiceover on, so I've just heard Jane's message come up going, healthybooks.org. I did turn voiceover off just a minute ago. No, it's quite amusing. But, you know, it's about being positive and to flip this on its head. So my daughter is sighted, and I can remember, you know, her going off to school, and we're very positive about my visual impairment. And I said to her, what will you say to other children if they go, oh, your mum's blind? And she'll go, oh, yeah, she is. Oh my God, I didn't realise. But again, it's just, no one told me. She's got
humour is the key.
But
humour is the key.
And you know, and again, it's about using language. It's not being afraid to say something. My sister really winds me up, because every time I say I've read a book, I'm going to turn voiceover off because I'm hearing everyone's messages. That's better. So, you know, don't be worried about language. And my sister will say, well, you didn't read the book, you listened to it. I mean, I could slap her on a regular basis. I hope. But yeah, you know, don't worry about what everyone else is saying or thinking. Just crack on.
I had somebody recently ask me if I had absorbed something from the TV. I thought that was a fantastic. Nobody had ever said that before. She started to say watch, and then she changed it. She was trying to think of a word, and she came out with absorb. I was like, you know what? Just don't change the language. I watch TV. I'll see you tomorrow. What else? And what am I going to say? Smell you tomorrow? Just don't overthink the language. Yeah, for sure. Although I quite like absorbing TV.
I like that, and we quite often will play I perceive with my little eye rather than I spy with my little eye. And when I say I perceive something beginning with E, and everyone's going E, and I'm going elephants. Well, I perceived it. Well, what's an elephant doing on the tube? But yeah, you know, we should all have fun, a humour.
I think it is hard. I remember feeling furious at times when it was particularly people in the older generation would go, what a shame. I was like, no, she's brilliant. Look at all the things she could do. But also when she was tiny, somebody I don't know, a family friend who we knew about Chloe's hearing loss before her vision loss, kind of went, oh, she's gorgeous. Well, at least she's not visually impaired, because I think that would be worse. I was like, you couldn't really make it up, could you? And I just thought, that poor person, when she knew that actually, yes, Chloe was both, she must have been mortified. Yeah, I don't know, you find a way through it, and I want you all to know you do. And that's why our kids meeting other children like them is so crucial. My daughter has gone on the new college activity weeks, and they will all be available for your children at some point. And and it's that relaxation when there was one time when they were talking about embarrassing things and things I do, and she didn't want me to go at one point. Then she looked up and said, "Mum, you can leave now," because she wanted the chance to talk about all those silly things she does. And it's okay to bump into a door because everyone else is doing it, and they need those opportunities. They really, really do, and they'll be great because you're all here coming to this session as well. Yeah, and please reach out to other people. Would you like any other information before we round it up? I do have a poll that I think will work that Charlotte Mellor wants to ask, because we want to find out a bit of information about where we could go next, because next week we've got a follow-up session for those of you who'd like to come along, where we chat a bit more. Eunice, I don't know if you're free, but it's a kind of follow-up like we had last time, so it will be hosted by Charlotte. But if you and George wanted to come along and chat a bit more to other parents, because honestly there's so many ideas about what you can do, and we barely touched on it today, did we? So, but we've got a little bit of time if anyone wants any. Oh, hi George. See, there is a dad.
I'll be listening on the sideline.
Yeah, so if there's any other questions, I'll just check. Is there anything on chat, Susan?
It's just a thank you for the Zoom. Thank you all, very helpful. Thank you so much, Chloe. Looking forward to getting more details.
My internet's quite unstable.
Love and support to Linda. Big hugs, hope, and I have a son with albinism. I think that's how you say it. I was looking to speak to parents in Milton Keynes. Is it albinism?
Oh, albinism.
Albinism, yeah, sorry, thank you. Yeah, just to meet people in Milton Keynes, and there's an albinism UK or less active on Facebook page. There's a Facebook page to get in touch.
Brilliant. So we'll share that as well.
But yes, but thoughts.
Okay. Right.
Eunice is actually in Eunice, you go to groups in Milton Keynes, don't you?
Yeah, we live in Milton Keynes, yeah.
Yeah, so Lulu, I know that Eunice's daughter doesn't have albinism, but she's based in Milton Keynes. We bumped into each other, didn't we? A mother and baby group, parent and toddler group, parent and child group. That was what I was trying to get. So the groups do exist. So I just messaged Lulu and just said, well, my charity is based in Milton Keynes, so we'd definitely be able to connect them with some families in the local area. But Milton Keynes has actually got quite a good scene, so to speak, really. With that. It doesn't exist everywhere. But Lulu, yeah, I will definitely email you separately with some details of some families and some groups to help out.
Brilliant. Right, everyone, cross your fingers. This is a poll that Charlotte has thought of because she'd like to know what other questions you'd like to think about in terms of early years. So I'm launching. Tell me if you can see it.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So I just wanted for the follow-up group next week. So if I had like an overwhelming response to education, then I'd get some people education in, and the same with play and development. Or it might just be a bit of a mixed bag. So I just wanted to, can the people who aren't hosts select?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want me to unhost you?
Perhaps, because I can see it, but there isn't. Oh, okay. Right. Oh, yeah, people are doing it. That's brilliant.
Oh, look, everyone's fine.
Whilst you're doing that, can I add a couple of things that might go on the list for links? I know one of the questions we haven't answered is about things that you can do with your child at home, and I've got quite an extensive list, which I know I've shared with Charlotte. I always get this wrong if it's Carson or Bowen, because how dare she got married and I knew her before. But things like Positive Eye and Wonder Baby are really good early resources.
Yes.
If you and I'm sure you've got links to those, but I know we haven't mentioned those. Also, to pick on something St. Mel's said with Sid, is you know, working with your child, never for, you know, it's a really easy thing to do is to sit behind them and work from behind, so you're mimicking their actual movements. That's quite difficult when you're swimming, Mel, I completely get that, but you know, if you're teaching to do up buttons and buttons and laces and fitting and all of those things, it's much easier to work sat on the floor working in from behind. And another thing that you said about language and left and right and up and down, and this is one of my favorite stories that illustrates this, is that I have a friend on two occasions, he's actually a famous musician, but he has got no vision, and he went to the was told he was going to see a giant tortoise when he went on a school trip, and of course he's walked in with his hands up above his head looking for the giant, and sort of that perception of a giant tortoise to a giant. But again, it's language that we use, and I think, you know, it can be quite, you know, like you think you're getting it right as parents, but think about that. And then he had the opposite. He went to the London Aquarium and he was asked if he would like to touch a seahorse. Well, he knew what a horse was, and he knew what the sea was. So he has visions of a horse in the sea, not something the size of his thumbnail. But again, you know, it's that play on language and sort of being aware of that. So, you know, if you're going to do a story about, you know, the three bears, Goldilocks and the three bears, get 3 teddy bears, get 3 chairs, get 3 bowls, illustrate your stories with actual items. I mean, don't get a real grizzly bear. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But, you know, a teddy and dolls' chairs. But again, it's all about that language and play.
Thank you. I'm
Could
sharing.
I just add to that on the toy front? Just everything, plastic, little animals, little houses, anything that is, you can show your child what a dog really feels like, what a house really feels like, on a small scale. And then obviously as they get bigger, they can feel bigger things. But Sid came out with a classic when she was a little bit older, saying, of course, all houses are round, because you walk around a house. And she hadn't actually felt a house. You don't walk into the corner of a room. You walk around a room. So any toys that are realistic, Sid had a massive collection of every animal imaginable in little plastic toys, so that she had a really good idea of what they felt like. And later on, in more adult terms, beat my sighted daughter making in a game where you had to make Play-Doh, and they had to make a stingray. And she beat my daughter.
A sea creature.
Yeah, it was a sea creature. And she beat my sighted daughter because she knew exactly how it felt and what it should look like. So I think anything that gives them a strong idea of reality in toy form is very useful.
I probably had toys that other kids think are boring because they didn't do anything. But they were just simple. Yeah, I had every animal imaginable. We literally had this conversation the other day in the car because I didn't know what a deer looked like, because that wasn't an animal I had. And it's just, I'm 30 and I still didn't really know what a deer looked like. So yeah, the animal toys, you can't really go and play with the tiger, it'll bite your hand off. So the toy tigers were quite good.
Yeah, I agree. Chloe still loves small world play, all those, because she felt so much when we did loads of story bags. So, you know, everyone else just read the story, but I found all the objects that related to the story. When she was learning sounds, we had a special sound story and an object that went with each sound. It was just amazing. It's amazing what you can do.
And it doesn't need to be complicated.
No,
simple. My perfect Play-Doh stingray was based on a plastic toy. You can't touch them either; they'll kill you.
And singing. If anyone likes singing, it's highly recommended.
But not the violin.
You play the violin beautifully. Don't give me that.
It's the hardest instrument in the world. You had no idea.
No, I didn't.
Charlotte Meller. Is that poll results? I think did you see them? Did you capture them? I can share them with you afterwards.
Yeah, I can see them.
So is that okay? Shall I stop sharing now?
Yeah, you can stop sharing now. Yeah, everyone's answered. Sorry.
What was the consensus?
So the biggest one was education, but that's no surprise, is it?
No.
The second one was signposting. The third one was, well, joint third and fifth are play and development and mobility. Oh no, sorry, I missed one there. Choice 7, mental health support for carers and families. So there wasn't one that was hugely ahead of the other ones. We don't seem to have many nocturnal children in the group. About, and people seem pretty up on understanding their child's eye condition, but not everyone. So yeah, a bit of everything everywhere, really. So well, it's interesting to know, isn't it? Because my one was always education when I was a parent, and I don't know why I panicked so much about it, because when she got placed in the appropriate setting, everything just kind of fell into place then. And I do feel quite bad when all these parents come with all these EHCP complaints and issues around settings, because Scarlett can literally stay where she is if I choose her to, until she's 26, until she goes into kind of a supported living type thing. So, but yeah, the two should be provided. And I think that is kind of complicated, especially around the stuff that Paula was saying before about registration and it being the open doors to support. I was actually dealing with a question today about someone who had 20/20 vision in one eye and no sight in the other eye, and they couldn't understand how they couldn't get their CVI registration, and their panic was that we're going to get no support in the schools. So yeah, it's not always simple. So sorry, I'm rambling on again.
And well, and no, arguably as well, it is just that lack of understanding, isn't it? Because I've had parents that have gone, well, they're half blind. And you have to very gently point out, actually, they can go off and get their driving license when they're 16. And monocular vision doesn't work like that. But again, if you've not been sat down, you know, you go out of a hospital room thinking that they've lost half their vision, you know, so of course that's how you think and you feel. And I just think we need to spend time with our families in hospitals. And you know, hopefully we get this right, oh gosh, but every hospital should be doing that. And I think going back to the EHC as well, it's understanding what that EHCP is, because a lot of, not all, but some children don't need huge amounts of support, and it can be catered within the school with the budget they have for each student. But if parents have been told that they should be getting this, and because they're not, they go in all guns blazing, unless somebody actually explains why the EHCP is there and what it means. Again, it's just lack of information at a hospital level or an early diagnosis level. And I think we need some very clear guidelines, because it might not be the battle you should be fighting. It's not to say that you shouldn't, but it might not be.
Yeah, we'll be following we will have a follow-up session, which is basically everyone who's joined tonight can come, and perhaps they've gone away, thought about the information that they've heard today and have processed it and want to ask more questions, or perhaps they didn't feel like they wanted to tonight, but then when they've gone back, they've got loads of burning questions that they want to bounce around. So that'll be happening next Tuesday, and myself and Jane will be following up with some like resource sheets, which will just compile everything that we've been talking about.
Charlotte,
oh yeah,
it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's next Wednesday.
It's next Wednesday. Oh, am I doing?
Yeah, it's the 6th.
Right. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay.
That's quite helpful, actually, because it's really busy on Tuesdays.
It's Wednesday the 6th, definitely.
Right, okay, that's fine. So next Wednesday is when the session is. Sorry, Jane, I don't know whether or not you'd gone and was never.
I did. My internet kicked me out. It's outrageous. Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. So sorry, I really wanted to get a little bit of feedback from people about how you found the session, which I would have done from the polls. But if before you sign off, if anyone could just write a little comment in the chat box, it's really helpful. It's helpful for us to know whether this is along the right lines, and we will be planning more together, and stay in touch with both charities as well. And you'll hear more from Eunice and George and other people next Wednesday. I won't be there, but there'll be other people from Look represented, because Barbara and I will be going to the House of Commons or to meet a shadow education minister with our children next week. So we're keeping on fighting the good fight, aren't we, Barbara?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is just really, really helpful, and look forward to catching up with you. We'll send you lots of resources following this session, and have a very good evening and good luck with your children. They will be fine because they have you as parents. So I'm signing off, and any panel members, thank you very much, and please feel free to give any feedback afterwards.